Hey, ladies and gentlemen, today we're going to be talking to you about how to build cash flow and how to get out. Now, this is the weekend for everybody. Everyone's really enjoying themselves. I know that they're off today. I got a really cool new pen. So I'm going to help you guys just build this cash flow. And we could build several types of ways of doing that inside of certain corporations and building that corporation so that we can make cash flow for the rest of your life and never do anything else. That is the main goal for today. So we're going to try to break some of that down and bust through some of the things that you think that you're going to need and the things that you're not going to need. So we'll go through one at a time and we're going to be covering these different subjects. And I want you guys to try to hold up and let me know when you see something that you kind of like, or if you have a question. Today we're going live on YouTube and we're going live on TikTok. So if either of you want to ask me any questions, please feel free at the time and we're going to help you out. So this is what we're going to want at first is we're going to want to have a holding company. And in addition, you're going to want it to own an operating company. So if you have an operating company in whatever business that you're in, your goal here is to make operating company and kick the operating income up to a holding company. Remember that the holding companies can live forever, whereas people can't live forever. Inside this holding company is where you're going to start putting your properties and leaving the properties in there. These properties inside your holding company, might make $100 or $200 of cash flow. Now that this property here, actually, let's just start with one property. We'll make it easy on you guys. Okay. So just let's say that you have one property there that has $100. That $100 property, this one is not going to be making a ton of money for you, right? How excited are you to make $100? But this is where you get paid on many different ways. A property doesn't pay you with cash flow. This is measly nothing burger, okay, to people. People don't care about cash flow. And the evidence of that is in all the properties that you buy in Southern Ontario, for example, or New York, California. These guys are negative money on those properties. So why would they do that? And because the big money comes later. Where do you make the big money? We're going to always make our money through appreciation. So you guys know what that means is that the property is going to go up in value. You also have depreciation, which is then you get massive tax write-offs through the depreciation. The depreciation is what's going to save you a lot of cash, okay? And then you have amortization. And amortization is that you can pay the loan off later. These three powers are massive, but this one here with the depreciation is why the majority of people are buying. Now, I understand that if you are going to be building your portfolio in the beginning, what do you care about? When you're building a portfolio, you might be caring about this cash flow up here, this money that you're going to make right away. But what you're really going to make your money on is appreciation over the long run. So let's just take a guess. What do real investors end up buying for? I can tell you that the number one reason people do this is for this right here, depreciation. Because through the depreciation, that's when you pay no taxes, my friends. No taxes when you get depreciation. So, of course, you want to make the most money in the beginning, and everybody's mindset is, how do I get immediately into making cash and taking it and spending it every month? Whereas the first thing that you should be doing is, how do I keep the money inside of this holding company here? You want to make sure this holding company is holding on to it for dear life. Okay. Because if you do that, if you can do that, this holding company is the baller. Okay. This is what you want, because now once the money stays in here and lives in here and never leaves the holding company, then you don't have to pay taxes anymore. That's the genius part. And this is what we always want, is 0% tax. 0%. That's what we want. Now you're going to get that through this magic of depreciation. Now, what is the depreciation? Now, it really depends where you live. Okay. So in the United States or in Canada, we're going to take off all this stuff here. If you are in United States or Canada, it's obviously very, very different, right? But in the United States, it's 27.5 years, and in Canada, it's approximately 40 years. Okay, so what are the differences between the depreciation? How does that work? What does this mean? What do these numbers mean? 27 and a half and 40 years. This could be kind of complicated for some people. So let's break it down. Let's just say that you had a $100,000 property here. Okay, I'm going to put $100,000 at the top, and I'm going to write US so that we know what country that is in. They would take the $100,000 and divide this by 27.5. Now, I don't know what that would work out to be. What is that? Like 20 2750, is that right? 2,750 a year? I think that's what it would be. So if that's the case, we would get $2,750 a year write-off. And now why would the government do that to us? The government is willing to do that because they know that houses don't last forever. They know that this $100,000 house is going to have to be rebuilt or have repairs done to this. So they're going to give you tax credits. So when you buy the house, maybe you've done no work to it, and in the first year, they're going to give you $2,700 off, $2,750 every year for the next whatever years, for 27 and a half or whatever the number is. Maybe my math is off. Just can somebody do that for me? 2750, 100,000 divided by this, whatever the number is. That's what you would get off per year. Okay. Now, in Canada, we work in a completely different way. Let's say that you had $100,000 Canadian. It's about 4% per year. So what would the very first year be? The first year would be a $4,000 credit in your very first year. So if you owe $4,000 in taxes, you can now use this as a write-off. You know what I mean? If you owe taxes, this comes a write-off off of your total income. It's not, so this is a write-off. It's not a tax credit, like dollar for dollar credit. So you're going to get to write this off every single year. But here comes the Canadian difference. It's a little bit different. So let's just imagine this is year one, this $100,000 and $4,000 business. Okay. What would you be left with after year one? Well, after, when we move into year two, obviously there'd be $96,000 left, right? We had 100,000 to begin with. We removed the $4,000 and we had $96,000 left. It would be 4% of this for year two. And then whatever the remainder is, it'd be 4% again. 100,000 times, it would be divided by 2.75. What is 2.75%? Hey, Jed, how are you? Thanks, buddy. It's as late for you, man. You guys got to be sleeping. Okay, so this is how Canada works. It's very different than how the United States works. Okay, so let's go on to. We have a really, really good question here about recapture. So let's get on to recapture. Does anybody know what recapture is? Recapture. I see a comment coming through on TikTok, but if you're on YouTube and you have any questions, you can come to us as well. But when it comes to recapture, this means if you get those tax credits or tax write-offs right away, you have to pay that back later. Okay. So this comes to an important question. When do you have to pay the recapture back? It has to be paid back on the sale. So if you have a great deal and it's paying you money all the time, why would you ever want to sell it? That's my question. Why would you ever want to sell it? So most of the answers come back that they're going to sell it because of what? Because they want to sell it. They want to get the money out. Okay, that means it wasn't a great deal. Or they want to sell it to hand it off to their kids. Something's going to happen in there. So if that happens where you're going to hand it off to your kids, I understand if it's in your own personal name, you have to sell it and then hand it off to your kids if you ever passed away. But that's why in the beginning, I always said that these homes should never be inside of your personal name. They should be inside of a company. Companies live forever. So also, I want you to think bigger. When you start thinking of recapture, This is for Woo TV. Whenever you start thinking about recapture, you're thinking too small. Your idea should be, how do I get bigger? How do I keep growing? How do I make my business 5 times bigger? That's what you should be thinking about, because recapture is thinking about a sale. Now, think about it this way. If you are going to be moving into another company, let's say these companies, have you ever heard of the company BlackRock? BlackRock just bought 10,000 properties, and they're going to be adding 10,000, 10,000. They just opened a company in Toronto to buy a bunch of homes. So BlackRock buys 10,000 homes at a time. They're buying it for depreciation. That's what they're doing. But they have no intention of ever selling these properties. They're going to stay in their portfolio forever, because they are now paying for what? They're paying for retirements of other people. Their stocks are for sale on the market. It's in people's pension funds. They need that depreciation. So this is what's going to happen. As soon as you get to like halfway through the year right now, like where we are in July, as soon as you get into July, you're now halfway through the year, and people, the companies, I mean, are in trouble. And now, why are they in trouble? It's because they are sitting on piles of cash. Now they want to know, now I'm worried. I have to pay massive tax for this. Massive tax, because I made so much money this year and I'm doing good. Okay, so then what is the answer for them? They need to, number one, get expenses higher, but they want productive expenses, and they need write-offs. And you're going to get that through going through depreciation. So imagine these guys, if they're sitting on a lot of money and they have all of this cash that is going to be having to pay tax on, they're looking for expensive write-offs and depreciation. If they can get expenses, write-offs, and depreciation all together, now they're not going to pay any tax this year. So you think that when they're actually buying a deal this year, if it's not a perfect deal, that it's not going to be great for them. They actually don't care at all about cash flow. That's not the main problem for them. Who cares about $100, $200 a month? They got tons of money that they just made this year that they don't want to pay tax on. So they're going to go buy a building right away this year so they can get immediate expenses, write-offs, and depreciation to save the money on the taxes that they would have had to pay on what they made. So that's why you'll see companies in the latter half of the year moving into these multi-unit buildings, because they're after depreciation. That's the big mama. And so every year, as companies make money in the first half, first and second quarter, remember, fourth quarters usually are a little bit soft. Second quarter is usually a bit soft, but they're going to be moving in aggressively to try to get their depreciation, pay no taxes. Remember, the government loves paying you if you pay no taxes. Their entire tax codes in Europe, Australia, Canada, the United States is all about, how do I help people pay no taxes? So they want you to, because you are now investing. You're going to be taking all this money that you made and investing it 100% into the market. You're going to be hiring jobs. You're going to be buying houses, providing housing for people. So they will let you pay 0% tax, which is the main goal. The government wants you to do that. If you decide on not doing this, not buying properties, not getting expenses, write-offs, depreciation, hiring people, building houses, if you don't, then they punish you and they make you pay taxes. So I want you guys to do good. I want you to pay zero tax. Every country does this. That's why real estate is the most favored asset class out there. Ciao. From where? STAI. Sorry, man. I don't know where that is. It looks like an Italian flag. Um, can I ask, there's a user with a weird number, 908, long user. It says, this is disturbing. What is disturbing? The fact that you can pay zero tax? Is that what's disturbing? Anyway, you guys, I read a lot of books. So I went to online, and you can get the entire tax code from the United States, the entire tax code from Canada. You could read through them. There's only one page that has how much tax you pay. And then there's hundreds of pages in the US, thousands of pages of tax write-offs. You can go get a book like this guy, Tom Wheelwright, and he has 7 ways that the government is actually paying you to invest. Go get books like that. I didn't make this stuff up. I just learned it from reading books and reading the tax code. Anybody that wants can get away without paying any taxes. So try out a book like this. Okay, so yes, so can I read this comment, you guys? It says, yes, and BlackRock buying up all the properties and no homes for people, discussing how they can write. Absolutely. And I agree with you, by the way. I agree with you that it is very, very hard for people. How could you compete trying to buy a home against this monster that is worth trillions of dollars? How? So if that is the case, why don't you play the same game? Because the benefits that BlackRock has, we live in this great place where you can have the same benefits, the exact same benefits as BlackRock, the same benefits as Donald Trump, as everybody else. If you want to pay 0% tax, you can do the same thing and just read books. This book was Tom Wheelwright. This is the accountant for Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And he shows you different ways that the government will pay you to invest. But, this book isn't his best book, I wouldn't say. But you know what? I would suggest that everybody start reading more books. I think it's a great idea. And this benefit to you to pay zero tax is huge. So here comes another problem. And we have these discussions with people actually far too often because they've been taught wrong their entire life. So everybody says, well, I'm going to just invest in stocks. Okay. So let's just take these two. So let's say that I have stocks over here and houses over here. Okay. Stocks, I still have to pay 25% tax on. So if I make $10,000 over here, I only make $7,500 after I pay my taxes. If in a house I make $10,000 over here, I can make it so that I pay 0% tax. So I keep my 10,000. That is the difference here is 33% more money. So I want to make 33% more money by paying 0 taxes. And the great thing is everybody has this available to them. So as much as you're mad at the corporations, and I agree with you, by the way, as much as we're mad that they have that power, the cool thing is you have this power too. You can do it too. Stocks in TFSA. So if you guys are in America, you guys, it's not called TFSA. I think it's called a Roth IRA, but the Roth IRA is 0% tax. 0% tax. Okay. So if it is 0% tax, look at this. So if you had $10,000 in stocks and you made 6% in a year, what was that making? $600 inside of a TFSA. Let's write TFSA. Okay. So now I don't pay anything on that $10,000. I know you can't find cheap homes. Maybe I should have used a different number. But if you were in a house, let's say, and you had 10,000, you can now buy a home that's worth 50,000. So now you have the power of leverage. If that 50,000 goes up 6%, what do you have? You made $3,000. And so that $3,000 now is no tax. So would you rather make 600 or would you rather make 3,000? And that's the main thing. Hey, Tony. Yeah, we know the market's crashing, man. The market is brutal. Market is crashing everywhere except where I buy my properties. I'm still making money on my homes. Anyway, so interesting, right? That we could pay 0% tax. Our main goal is that you want this house to create a baby for you and you want another house being made for you. And then when these two homes are the right way, you're going to be able to buy a third and buy a fourth and a fifth. And the thing is that all these houses are going to create babies for you over and over and over again. Remember, the idea here is that you are going to be taking this and you're going to be building this brick wall around these homes inside of a holding company. And then all money that these companies are generating, imagine that all the money is just staying in here and staying in this circle. As these properties make money, all you're going to be doing is buying another property and you're keeping it running inside the same company as it's growing. That's the main goal, is to keep it 100% in there. You're never bleeding cash off. Um, let me try and get this. So let's see. What are you guys asking? Got lots of questions coming in, you guys. Tony, rent market in the GTA. Rent market in the GTA is going up like crazy. I mean, what is it year over year? I think 24% in some neighborhoods. Rent is going bananas. And why is it going bananas? Because all new buyers cannot qualify to buy a home now. But all the damage that has been done on the prices of homes has only fallen because new buyers cannot buy in. Nothing has happened about the people who have gone on foreclosure or anything like that. Foreclosures aren't happening. People aren't losing their homes yet. That's coming. And when that happens, they're going to increase. But everybody wants to stay in their own city. Nobody ever wants to move. So they're willing to downgrade. And the demand for rentals is crazy. The prices are going up and up and up like crazy. Which markets are you investing in? I invest in markets right now that are safe and defensible. And so you're going to look into certain markets that have governments that are protecting landlords. And so when you're going to look for a government that protects landlords, you need two things: rent increase. You need rent increase, unlimited. Unlimited. So I can raise my rents $100 a month if I want to. I can raise my rent whatever I want. So this is what we want. Number one, rent increases. Number two, do you guys know what number two is? Do you guys want to take a guess? It's time for, what do you think? Anybody? Eviction. So in Quebec, we're at 24 months to evict. That's like the best, the worst in Canada, or best, depending where you are. But Alberta is 1 week. So, this depends, right? And there's everything in between. All different provinces have different rules. So these are the two things. You got to be able to raise your rent as much as you want, and you can be able to ask them to leave for non-payment. Here is something that is very uncomfortable. It's going to trigger some of you. I know it's going to trigger some of you, but rent protection for tenants, if you go read studies on this, it's the worst thing for tenants. It's absolutely terrible. And just think of it. You need units to live in for rent, but the only people that provide them are either the government, which is way too expensive, or they get private enterprise to do it. So if the private enterprise needs to build it, that's private landlords, you got to make it worth their while. So in Canada now, they're all moving down to places like you mentioned, Woo TV there, red states in the US, Florida, Tennessee, Texas, Arizona, Nevada, stuff like that. Arizona is kind of in the middle. I've seen some people move to Kentucky, but really Tennessee and the Florida Panhandle, I think, are the best. NB, you got eviction. Yep. Man, were you on my show before? Tony, you said that rent for Toronto people, multiple offers and bidding wars on rent. Absolutely. That's happening all over the place. All the time. It's a little bit funny because it has been that way for, oh boy, 2015. Since 2015 or something, the bidding wars are crazy. So we only had that 1 year of reprieve in 2020, mid 2020 to mid 2021. that area, there was nothing renting, obviously, but it has picked up like crazy since last fall, like on fire. Properties are getting like 4 or 5 offers. You have to bid $100,000 over. And B, so LTB, Landlord and Tenant Board of Ontario, is horrible. Well, they try, but remember, they can only back up. This is the Landlord and Tenant Board. Now, depending on where you go, right, they're going to have landlord and tenant boards, but these boards are going to lean on the direction of the government. So you have to be studying what the government is asking for in that country or that province or that state or whatever, your local government where you plan to build. You should be studying who is in power and who is going to be in power. So for me, the homes that I buy, I'm going to always be studying the type of government so that I know which way they're leaning. So if we're talking about Ontario is only for the tenant. They don't care at all about landlords. I mean, it's kind of in their governance. You could read it. If you are on the phone with them and they find out you're a landlord, they want to hang up the phone on you. So they are here to protect tenants. Where there's other places where they don't care about the tenant as much and they only want to care about the landlord. So, there isn't very much happy middle ground in most places. It's either one or the other. It's tough. It's tough. Hey, you guys, if you like this stuff, please just give this a like. And if I provide any value to you, I do this. I'm going to be trying to do this every day. And I come on, but I'm going to be going live on YouTube as well. And I just need 1,000 viewers on my YouTube. So if you can go over same name, just go over to my YouTube channel and follow me here. If I give you any help, just do that for me. Okay. Okay, so what is your next question? How come the Bank of Canada could not see inflation coming and no major rate increases before 2023? Okay, so this is a very, very, very interesting question. And I mean, the answer is very simple, but some people refuse to know it. What is the only cause for inflation generally? So generally, there is 2 parts to inflation. I'm going to write this down, okay? Inflation comes in 2 parts. And so the first one is the demand and supply. Now this is, what is it? Economics 101, demand and supply. Now COVID happened, so there was no supply. We couldn't get any supply online. So that obviously is going to cause a problem. But what happens if you had no rain in an entire place that had bananas and now there was no bananas? Of course, bananas would have to go up in price, right? So there always is a demand and a supply thing. But this is a fraction compared to the biggest kahuna, M2. And this is money supply, the amount of dollars that are in the system. This is what causes inflation. So you could also go back and read about this in history. Go read about economists like Milton Friedman. Money supply, or the amount of money that a government prints, is the thing that causes inflation. So to say that the Bank of Canada could not see inflation coming is a story. That's like fairy tale land. That's like Elsa and Anna. What's that movie? Frozen. Okay, that does not exist. They have hundreds of economists that work for the Bank of Canada. There's thousands of economists that work for the United States. They all know that money printing creates inflation. All of them. That happened on their first day in class. So there's nobody that was under the misguided knowledge that they knew that the inflation was coming. It was coming 1,000%. Let me show you something that you're going to blow your mind, okay? I need you guys just to watch this screen for a second, and we're going to go through this, okay? This is going to teach you some cool stuff. Let's just say I have no drawing skills, okay? So let's imagine here that we have this fun little car. Can you guys give me a number? How much do you think this car is worth in dollars? In fact, we could change that. Like, sure. Give me a number in dollars, any amount. How much do you think this car is worth? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. No answers. Okay, let's make it 10,000. But remember, dollars is a mistake. Oh, you said 25,000. I'm going to follow what you say, okay? So we're going to say this is 25,000, but this is the mistake that people make, is that you're calling this dollars. But what the hell does a dollar mean anyway? So let's actually break this down, and let's say that there was 12,500 of something else in $2 forms called loaves of bread. Okay? So dollars, measuring anything in dollars is the mistake. So you're saying $25,000, but I'm going to use 2,500 loaves of bread. This is the metric that I'm going to put, okay? But let's just spread this out a little bit more. Let's just say over here, let's just say on this side, this is the value of my car and I need some money. So I go ask a friend of mine and I'm like, "Hey bro, I got this car. What I'm going to do is I'm going to give you an IOU, and it's going to say I owe you a car. My car." Okay? I give him one piece of paper. The one piece of paper says I owe you a car. I didn't write a nice box, did I? So I owe you a car. How much is that one piece of paper worth now? I think we have one of our Dutch friends. How much is this piece of paper worth? My car is worth $25,000. How much is this piece of paper worth? Piece of paper is worth one car, right? 25 grand. That's how much the piece of paper is. So now the government needs some money. What happens if the government just goes and invents a second piece of paper? What happens if they now have two pieces of paper and they write, I owe you a car? Now, how much is each piece of paper worth if I had to liquidate the car? If I liquidate the car, each piece of paper now is worth half of a car. So that piece of paper went from being worth $25,000 to now being only worth half that, 12 and a half. Then now if we go over and over and the government keeps printing IOUs, always I owe you a car. They print another one, I owe you a car, and they're sending this paper money to all these people. They can invent all the paper pieces of money that they want, but the car doesn't change its value here. Do you see what I mean? So as the governments print money, that is the problem, and that's called M2 money supply. So the way to figure out what a government, what a dollar is worth. What is a dollar worth? So in the government's terms, if we were going to look at a government, the government has an economy that is running. How do they normally measure the economy? Something called GDP, or gross domestic product. That is how big their engine is that's running in the economy, that's making money. So you just want to know, what is the value of this? Maybe it's $1 trillion. That is the value right there of the economy. And now you have to divide that by M2 money supply. Now you'll have the real value of what those pieces of paper that you have. So here's the thing, is the government went in the past 2 years, 2.5 years, what did they do? The government, it's out there. They created 50% more money. So if they created 50% more money, what happens to the cost of things? The cost would increase 50% on all items. Now, of course, we know that supply and demand is going to have a portion to do with that. But how much has food gone up in the past 2 years? Most would say 50%. How much has gas gone up? 100% gas. Okay. But the gas portion is a lot to do with the war, right? But even before the war, gas was up 50%. What about all your other services? What about cars? What about houses? Oh my God, houses are up 50%. So you think that the government printing 50% more money, you're shocked that homes went up 50%? Come on. Come on. Of course it went up 50%. So if you want to know the true value of a dollar, all you have to do is take the GDP and divide it by the M2 money supply. And then you're going to find out what the true value is. That's it. Also, you want to know another fun little tip? I can tell you, don't listen to what they call CPI inflation. What they print is not correct, what they put on the news. A better way to do that is just find out, like, what is the date? You can go from August 1st on the stock market. So just look on the stock market from August 1st to August 1st. Just 1 year, okay, of difference. But this would be of 21 and this would be of 22. If you just look at the difference, so if the stock market went up 20% between the 2 years, that would be a better measure of the actual inflation than actually what is pronounced on the news. The funny relationship is 92% of all money ends up where? That is printed, ends up in the stock market. So looking at 1 year yourself at what the stock market was to what it is now is a better indication than whatever you'll read in the news. So my encouragement to you is go out there and do the work. Go out there and do the work for this. You can get there, but you're reading the wrong news. I don't read the news because the news is always wrong. You got to go figure it out for yourself. And you're going to do that by like reading books and expanding your mind. I've been recommending this book for the past couple of weeks because I finished this book, Peter Zien, The End of the World is Just the Beginning. Amazing book. You guys should read that. All right, you guys. Well, I'm going to get going. Thanks very much for coming by tonight. Really appreciate it. Remember, please go over to YouTube and follow me here. You guys have a great night. Appreciate it.